Hello, everybody. This is Georgianne Hughes, and this is the Byte Show. And we have Aaron Kaplan on the line with us, and he is going to talk about JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and Clinton. And Aaron is an author and a researcher. You can find his book, Deep Analysis, Frightening Conclusion, at that website, deepanalysisfrighteningconclusion.com, because the website in the book has the same name. Anyway, hi, Aaron.
Hi, Georgianne. How are you tonight?
I'm okay.
You know, I'm going to call this segment JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and Clinton. Very few people really realize. I mean, I do understand that this station, the Byte Show, is not a conspiracy station per se. It's a station of many subjects and many titles. But conspiracy is a very funny word. It's really a culmination of many sources of information, evidences. It's up to each individual to feel whether it's the truth or fabrication or the word conspiracy, whatever it is. But these times, what's going on around us, folks, are real special times. You can see it, you can feel it. Even some ex-presidents like Clinton, and that never happened before. But if you notice, the last 2-3 years, right as Obama was elected president, ex-President Clinton is very close to him. He never criticizes him, but always works with him. Remember, Clinton was chosen to go to North Korea to release, if you remember, those two women who were taken prisoner about a year ago, and many other things. And they're working hand in hand. Whether it's reinforcement for Obama or right now it's needed is not a story, but it's going on. Georgianne, did you notice that?
Sort of, yeah.
Very close. Never happened before. I mean, when George Bush was president, you never saw Clinton helping him. I know Bush was a Republican, or any other one. You know, it's very strange. But this time, like, they're working together, and as if it's too much, too many things are happening all around. And I'm not sure whether you, our listeners, know how close, really, President Clinton may have come to initiate a prearranged, I got to be careful how I say that, to initiate a prearranged ending of his life by the same group and method that JFK had died by. It's a very strange story. And believe it or not, for almost the same exact reason, the hidden truth. Now, JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and Clinton, JFK had Marilyn Monroe, and Clinton beat him, so to say, to the game with two names, Paula Jones and Monica Lewinsky. It's a fascinating correlation that has much truth in it. And again, the word conspiracy does not mean much by itself. It's only a culmination and gathering of facts from many sources, some official and some non-official, some verified, some not verified. However, information is information. And usually where there's smoke, there is some fire. And if you have the time and the guts to check the trail of dead bodies, you will agree. A few months ago, regarding the death of JFK, some information was released by a worldwide organization called Exopolitics. One of the heads of that organization is Dr. Michael Sella. There's also a lady involved, Paula Harris. she's world famous newspaper writer, editorial, and also mentioned once that she has worked for the Vatican. She even admitted that. Now, this information is both official and leaked documents provides a compelling case that President Kennedy's efforts to declassify UFO files was a direct factor in his assassination. This information came from Dr. Michael Sella in a presentation at the 7th Annual UFO Crash Retrieval Conference on November 7, 2009. Dr. Sella revealed that there were three critical periods concerning President Kennedy's efforts to gain access to classified UFO files. So the first began in February 1961 with Kennedy's executive order to place psychological warfare programs under the control of his national security team. The second period then began and involved Kennedy using his authority as commander-in-chief to learn what he could learn about UFOs and extraterrestrial life. He knew something was going on. While being denied access to UFO files by the group called MJ-12 and the counterintelligence, CIA today it's known as CIA, the third and most critical period began on September 20th, 1963, when President Kennedy gave a speech at the UN General Assembly calling for joint space and lunar mission with the USSR. He gave the speech on September 20th, folks, 1963. It's very close to his assassination date. Now, one major note, just in case not many of you remember from being around or with news leaks, that at the time of John F. Kennedy's death, many more died. Family members, close friends, and people involved in the media, within weeks and months of each other. Folks, many, many people, one after the other, like a trail of death. By far, the most controversial piece of I would call unauthenticated documentation pertaining to UFOs concerned none other than the late Hollywood legend Marilyn Monroe. It was during a press conference in 1995 that a person called Milo Spiriglio. Now, many of you are not familiar with the name. Neither was I. I had to do some research on him. The name Milo Spiriglio, a long-time LA private eye. He was also a professional private investigator for over 40 years, and he was actually a registered criminologist and an author. He died on May 28, 2000. He wrote 3 world-famous books claiming that Marilyn Monroe was murdered, and he was among the first to say that she was a victim of foul play.
Well, she was.
Yeah. And that we found needle marks in her ankle, Georgette, from injections, believe it or not. It just came out through new findings over medical files.
Wow.
Yep. And now, incredibly, according to some documents that just surfaced in the hands of another name, a California-based researcher of UFOs named Timothy Cooper. Timothy Cooper was also an investigator and writer. He was involved in much of the investigations into the Majestic documents. Mr. Cooper quietly began his investigation to the CIA and NSA UFO files in 1988 through the FOIA, which is Freedom of Information Act. He looked very deeply into President Kennedy's assassination and very guardedly informed Monroe that he had secret knowledge of the controversial incident at Roswell. What I'm trying to say, Timothy Cooper is saying that JFK told Marilyn Monroe in secret that he, JFK, had a secret knowledge of exactly what happened to Roswell. in July 47. Now, as a result of Kennedy's revelations to Monroe, the CIA took keen note of any and all developments as the story progressed, or at least that is what we're led to believe. Folks, if you take a look at pictures of Marilyn Monroe, I did, and I found out by accident. I'm going to a dentist here in Rochester, New York. The dentist is a very strong fan of Marilyn Monroe, believe it or not. He has pictures of Marilyn all over his wall.
Oh,
and I took yeah. Her face, you know, of a famous white bathing suit she always wore.
Yeah.
And if you look at the facial expressions of Marilyn Monroe in those pictures, then they changed drastically about 4 months before her death, roughly. You could tell that her eyes are tired. She's worried, as if she knows something's going on.
Yeah.
Before a certain date, she was always smiling, you know, ravishing. She knew something's up.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that. She knew that. And the pictures are like self-revealing. Now, that document that they're talking about here, that Spiriglio, the detective, explained the press conference, he found a document, very, very secretive, that ties in all the tragedies to the next victim, which is a very famous name called Dorothy Kilgallen. You remember her?
Yes.
Okay, she was a specialist on a panel on CBS Watch My Line.
Mm-hmm.
She was a reporter, and she had a lot of inputs with the JFK, later on with the Jack Ruby,
Yeah.
the person supposedly that shot the shooter, blah, 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 blah. But that was not, people never tied in Kilgallen to anything else but the actual assassination of JFK and the knowledge of the shooter. It's a very fascinating story. Many UFO magazines started to leak stories about Dorothy Kilgallen. And something finally happened on the way to the form. All those UFO magazines that started mentioning her name were shut down one by one.
Yeah.
One by one.
Yeah.
Very, very quietly. Very quietly. And according to this detective again, Spiriglio, people started to make connections. But nobody was brave enough to initiate what's going on. One document even tied it into the British government. That's England. The document gets to the point of one such secret mentioned the visit by the president at a secret air base for the purpose of inspecting things from outer space. Kilgallen said that she knew what might be the source of the visit, or why. In the mid-50s, Kilgallen learned, and that's in the mid-50s now, before JFK affair, in the mid-50s, Kilgallen learned of a secret effort by the U.S. and the UK governments to identify the origins of crashed spacecraft and dead bodies. Okay?
Oh. That
means probably Roswell, because we are not aware of any other ones. Roswell in our country. But there may have been more abroad. Now, the origins of crashed spacecraft and dead bodies from a British government official, okay? I will explain very soon who this official is. So Gallen believed the story that may have come from the New Mexico area, in the late 40s, which is certainly now Roswell. So Gallo said that if the story is true, it would cause terrible embarrassment for Jack Kennedy and his plans to have NASA, she's saying, put men on the moon.
Yeah.
So something was up. She was searching real deep, and she knew something was up. Now, from there we learn much more. Marilyn Monroe repeatedly called the Attorney General and complained about the way she was being ignored by the President and his brother. Marilyn Monroe threatened to hold a press conference and would tell all. Nobody knew what she meant. Monroe made references to bases in Cuba, and she also knew the President's plan to kill Castro. That's how close, folks, JFK was to Marilyn Monroe. Just imagine, okay? Very, very close. And in her secret diaries, she kept a very secret diary. She had very little notes. And one note said, space. Nobody knew what she meant. Now, back to Dorothy Kilgallen. Those stories, Dorothy Kilgallen was indeed implicated in the UFO controversy, and that's not a matter of doubt. In May 23rd, 1955, edition of the LA Examiner, Kilgallen wrote, British scientists and airmen, after examining the remains of one mysterious flying ship, are convinced these strange aerial objects are not optical illusions or Soviet inventions, but are flying saucers which originate on another planet. The source of my information, that's Kilgallen speaking, is a British official of Kaplan rank who prefers to remain unidentified. Okay? The British official told Kilgallen that we believe, on the basis of our inquiry thus far, that the saucers were staffed by small men, probably under 4 feet tall. It's frightening, but there's no denying the flying saucers come from outer space. I'm assuming, folks, personally, that she refers to those little grays. That's basically what's going on. There have been stories, if you remember, of Chinese Mongolians, and lately some later wrote a story about Russian Mongolians from Stalin. Come on, folks. You know, it's just next it'll be Eskimo Mongolians from North Pole, then the little Arabs from Egypt with a turban on their heads, you know, and then at the end they'll say it's a little Jewish guy from Jerusalem with a yarmulke on his head running around, you know. But every few months, it's a different race of people. And flying balloons, that's pretty funny. Now, of course it goes without saying that if Kennedy had secretly imparted details of his knowledge of the Roswell affair of 1947 to Marilyn Monroe, then this would have been considered an extremely grave matter to the CIA. Hence the surveillance of the activities of the Hollywood actress, and like I said, she felt, folks, she felt the last 4 or 6 months of her life that something is wrong. She knew it. But official dome, I guess it's called, there's another reason to be concerned. Monroe's dabbing in communism, okay, an issue that attracted the FBI's attention for years. Folks, even I never knew that. Folks, I've never known that. I found this out a couple of months ago when I was digging through some information, that Marilyn Monroe was very interested in communism. I don't know why. Maybe it's false information, by the Secret Service to discredit her? I'm not sure. But they did present evidence that they're using the word dubbed or mingled, but tried to learn about communism. I have no idea, folks, but I just found this out, like I said, a couple of months ago. And this is an issue that attracted the FBI more and more. Okay? In other words, even without the UFO connection, Monroe was still not perceived as somewhat of a significant national security issue. UFOs, maybe. Maybe they were just icing on the cake, folks. Folks, believe me, I never knew it before about Marilyn Monroe. I never did. Now, I know this sounds crazy and really far out there, but Marilyn Monroe could have been a spy. Could have been. Like I said, I just found this stuff out, but I will do more digging now that I touched on it. Certainly, official files on Monroe showed that the FBI was watching her closely because of her interest in communism. Of course, that is all far cry from spy. But the era of the 50s, when the surveillance of Marilyn Monroe began, pretty much anyone who was in the public eye and had made comments about communism was watched. We all remember the Phil MacArthur and all the movie actors and actresses were classified as communists. The 50s was the era of communist spies. So maybe there's some truth in it about Marilyn Monroe, maybe not. Like I said, we'll have to dig in further, real deep. But with all that said, there are things that today, with respect to this most curious and extremely controversial document that Tim Cooper left, it's unbelievable. It's really, really high. Now, back to Dorothy Kilgallen. I mentioned before that she was involved with a British official. Okay. She was a journalist who was found dead in a New York apartment on November 8th, 1965. That was right after her interview with Lee Harvey Oswald's killer, Jack Ruby. Yeah, she was found dead in her bed, reading a book. Now listen to this. The book was found in her hands upside down, folks, okay? Now, whether the woman even died by accident or committed suicide or whatever, she would never read a book upside down.
That's for sure.
Unless two things happened. She knew she had a few seconds left in her life. So if she did hold the book in her hands, she turned it upside down to draw attention after her death. Or whoever killed her was in a rush and stuck in the book in her hands upside down. But folks, whichever way it went, it was not normal.
Well, she was murdered.
Oh, yeah, we know that. But with the book upside down in the hand,
yeah, really.
I mean, it's like reminding me the joke when I discussed on the show once about Admiral Byrd flying the plane to the, in the South Pole. Everybody says he went to the North Pole.
Yeah.
So what are the cameras doing on this plane with the Kodak film, with the Dramaticum cameras, with a daylight sensitive film in the North Pole, when the North Pole at the time is celestial winter, pitch black.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like one of those deals that sometimes the government misses stupid things, but those things come back to haunt them, basically.
Yes.
So, the official version of her death was she committed suicide. Now, however, while all the people's minds were focused on the JFK subject, very, very few people knew a real gigantic story, or a story never to be told. Before her death, she told very close friends that she had information that would break a certain case wide open. She didn't refer only to the JFK assassination, but she was referring to another top secret case. She was investigating another case with some very high officials in the U.S. and the British government. Now I'm going to get deeper on it. Here's what very few people knew about the journalist Dorothy Kilgallen. She claimed that someone in the upper echelon of the British government informed her that a UFO crashed near Spitsbergen and was under investigation by the British and the American military. Supposedly, this informant, the British official, was Lord Mountbatten. Okay. Now, not so fast. You have to hear the rest of the story. Now, she must have known that her time is very, very short. Dorothy Kilgallen knew too much of the truth about the assassination of JFK. She knew too much. And she had a sense, like a sixth sense, that her life was going to come to an end very shortly. Apparently, when she met with Lord Mountbatten, one of the very close and very private business meetings, and this information, of course, came from one of her very close friends, which I'm not sure of. Now, Dorothy Kilgallen was told that a third flying saucer, actually crashed in England at the identical time of the crash that took place in Spitsbergen in 1952. And inside a craft that crashed in England, they found some dead occupants, the little Greys. However, what is more fascinating is that they found messages regarding future signs for mankind. Little crop circles, drawings resembling, folks, to the giant crop circles that supposedly are appearing today. Okay? And all the dates of those drawing, whatever they found on I can't say on paper or vellum or silver foil or aluminum foil, I have no idea. They all told of to look for safe havens, and build gigantic food storage places to get prepared for an approaching disaster on December 21st, 2012. Now, Lord Mountbatten discussed a planned top secret meeting that was put together real quick by JFK, a meeting between JFK and Nikita Khrushchev. The topic of this meeting was to discuss a possible future moon joint venture between Russia and the USA to share some very high technology that somehow was said to have been found on the moon. On the moon? Who found it? We didn't go to the moon until 1969, officially. Very strange. Yes, back then in 1963, the question is, do we have some very advanced alternative technology back then? Sure we did. Also mentioned in this conversation was the documented location for a certain future seed bank, which I called, if you remember, I had a special about that, called the Doomsday Seed Bank or the Svalbard Seed Bank. They were shown on all the papers, all the TV news broadcasts, that a seed bank was built some way out of Norway, the island of Spitsbergen. And it still exists there now, folks. It's patrolled by NATO fleets and aircraft 24 hours a day. You cannot get near it. You can't get near it. Now, another president that a few few months ago, was trying to make some comments regarding Obama, trying to give him some advice, and try to look very smart, very smart. President Jimmy Carter. Folks, he's the only president that I've ever heard of after leaving office criticizing in public presidents. He's done it to Bush, and he's not doing it to Obama. And that's after all, if you remember, President Carter was involved with Iran. He tried to rescue the hostages in a very big operation involving helicopters and aircraft, Hercules C-130s.
And they delayed the rescue until after the presidential thing. Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right. After this operation got patched up, everything was put to sleep, and then it took Reagan later on to bring him back home. So here we have a president who is criticizing other presidents what they're doing wrong. When he was president, he patched everything up.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't get that. And this president and the next president that's helping Obama, by the way, now, Clinton, on the other hand, is really giving him a helping hand and seem to work on his behalf side by side. Clinton has never criticized Obama. If you notice, he never criticized him.
Yep.
Never. So, now, back to, now it's Clinton's turn. I spoke with JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and other stuff, and here's a correlation between JFK and Clinton. It's very similar. So let me start by reading this. Who remembers Chinagate or Sexgate? That's pretty much describing Clinton's term in office. And what is the relationship with Clinton? Now, dead men can talk. Like Ron Brown, the late Commerce Secretary, on April 3rd, 1996, Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 34 others were killed when their Air Force Boeing 737 crashed into the mountainside in Malaysia. And of course, right afterwards, we heard and read that the Ron Brown plane crash did the CIA hoax assassinate Ron Brown. There were rumors that in reality is that the Clinton administration gave China then the ability to send their nuclear missiles anywhere in the world, especially to the USA. Believe it or not. At the time they said that the technology that President Clinton transferred to China would help China then, at the time, at least then, to direct missiles anywhere in the world, including the U.S. We gave them the technology. Today they have the best computers, the best systems in the world. This is an unchangeable part of history. We can't change that. And the company involved in it was IBM. And believe it or not, whether it was meant to be or not, many IBM personal computers right now are made in China, not in the U.S. And also, we also remember that the Clintons used to rent for a fee the Lincoln bedroom in the White House to the Chinese?
Yeah.
You remember that, Jojan?
Yes.
It was a big joke at the time, but that's what they did. Now, whether it's a joke, a rumor, but the Chinese actually slept in a Lincoln bedroom. And that's whether Clinton did it or did it as a respect to the Chinese heads or as a joke. We'll never know what the real reason was, but that's what he did. And all of this, the transfer of military technology technology to the Chinese and the use of the White House bedrooms, all of that almost led to military coup, by the way.
Yeah.
Many kids don't know about that. There were 14 generals and one admiral who actually got together and were going to form a military coup against Clinton. If you dig very deep, folks, into the records of those days, you'll see I'm correct. Now, however, something happened. However, now you know why you believe that the word I used earlier, sex gates, was set up by the military who used Monica Lewinsky and Paula Jones as the only way to try to get Bill Clinton out of office. I call it a bloodless coup d'etat, okay?
Yeah.
Use sex. Folks, if you follow the incidents, what happened, it is the truth. Now, before I go on, okay, now we know what happened with Monica Lewinsky and Paula Jones. We know what happened, and I believe it was, even though he wanted it, of course, somebody, I guess, helped the situation along, to make it happen. And I remember I was listening once to a radio show on ABC Radio about 2 years before Clinton's last days in office, and I was listening to a radio show called the Sean Hannity Show, okay? And on the show, Sean Hannity had a person which I mentioned before, Dick Morris, okay? Folks, I have no idea who the guy Dick Morris is. I have no idea what his background is, where it comes from. But all I know is very deeply involved in the Democratic Party, very deep. He knows things. He knows everything. He even said once when Hillary Clinton was running for president against Barack Obama, he said months before the vote where Obama beat Hillary Clinton, he said, folks, Hillary is running up to now to become president. However, she will not be in the final running. She will not be. She will not seek that. So, folks, what's going on? From my understanding personally, now that's my understanding, is this. I believe that Hillary Clinton gave Barack Obama the presidency on a silver plate. She ran against him knowingly, all the stories out then, knowingly she would lose. You see, in order for President Barack Obama to become a real runner against the Republican Party, he has to be a winner. He has to show that he's the winner and that he beat another very strong runner like Hillary Clinton, right? So basically, Hillary Clinton, stories came out, if you remember, about whatever. She lost the runner-up. And Barack Obama became the elite candidate for the Democratic Party. That's what's supposed to be, folks. Because this gave Barack Obama now credibility to be president. Now that he beat Hillary Clinton, then he's the man to win, to be our president, folks. It was all prearranged. Now I'm sure of that. There's no other, there's no other way out of it. Now, back to President Clinton. Why did they unleash on him Paula Jones and beautiful, attractive Monica Lewinsky? Well, the story was, folks, that President Clinton found out, definitely, from our spacecraft on the planet Mars rovers, whatever you call them, that definite life on Mars. And I don't mean those little amoebas or worms and rocks. No. And he was going to come out with a statement regarding real life on Mars. Well, apparently, the government would not allow that at any cost. He even called 3 days early before he was going to so-called announce it on the air. He called a very close friend of his. And this story, by the way, folks, was on Sean Hannity's show. You go back in history, run the tapes, you'll see I'm correct. It was told by Dick Morris himself. Okay. He called his friend on the telephone, and he wanted his advice how to reveal to the American people that there's real life on Mars. Well, the friend that he called, Clinton at the time didn't know, had with him in very close quarters a very attractive woman. All I know is she was blonde. Dick Morris said so. And she also heard the whole conversation. That conversation was, by the way, taped, with Secret Service. And that blonde, a few days later, was called in, but she was let go. No harm came to her. But Clinton, that's a different story, folks. He was going to go ahead with the story and reveal it. So what it did very simply, folks, is got him tied up with Monica Lewinsky and Paula Jones for the next 2 to 3 years. Folks, Clinton couldn't say a word. He was all tied. And by the way, at the same time, back in 1984, and by some data that was published by a NASA journal in August 16, 1996, if you all remember, they found a small black rock in Antarctica, where everybody said was from Mars, okay? And the rock number of a tiny meteorite labeled ALH84001.
How would they know it's from Mars unless they've been there?
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I know. And the big dating the rock to about 13,000 years ago. Okay. Now, the very strange date was this date was a date supposedly, roughly within 500 years of the flight of Noah. Okay. And many storms happened at the time. Many meteorites fell from space. Now, do you remember, Jan, me mentioning once, was called Process in Space, the cosmos of the universe, the galaxy, everywhere. Process is called cosmic bombardment?
Yes.
Okay. This process, Georgianne, occurs everywhere in space. Every planet in the universe, the Earth, Mars, Jupiter, the Sun, except whatever falls on the Sun will melt, Sun, Uranus, Mercury, and every other galaxy in the world, the Vega galaxy, everywhere. This cosmic bombardment is a process where the cosmic storms constantly, and those cosmic storms carry with them millions and millions of little black meteorites or rocks, whatever they're called. And they are made of uranium. Okay? So those rocks will always fall on the surface of the moon, on Earth, and on Mars, on Venus, on any planet. And if you're an astronaut who walk on the surface of those planets, pick up rocks, put it in a little black bag, folks, he's not picking up rocks that belong to the planet, to its habitat. Chances are it's picking up the same black rocks that fell on a million other planets. And if you dissect all the little rocks, you'll find the same genealogy, the same basis, the same cells, because it came from the same source. If you want to know what the real Earth compound of Mars is made of, or the Earth or the Moon, you'll dig in about half a mile deep and bring out samples from there, but not from the surface. And that's stressed on the rock in Antarctica that was found, okay, that's made of iridium. Of course, because every little rock and meteorite that falls on the Earth from space is made of iridium. So why are they stressing and telling us that this rock came from Mars? Because when they cut it in half, and when they cut another little black rock that was found on Mars in half, they basically found the same basic life form cells. Because they are the same. It doesn't mean it's a Martian rock. But they came out to the story, you know why? With the word Mars on it? They came out to the story, to the Secretary Clinton, in case he would open his mouth.
Oh.
Now you get it, Georgianne?
Oh, my goodness.
It happened at the same time, identical, with Monica Lewinsky's story.
Oh.
They took the initiative of leaking out on purpose information mentioning the word Mars, just in case Clinton opens his yap. They'll say, well, he's referring to primitive life with the rocks. What a story, okay? So now you know, folks, why I said originally that President Clinton was very, very close to coming to have his life ending for almost the same reason as JFK did. It all has to do with space, with nothing else, folks.
You know, Clinton got to where he looked very sick, and that went on for a while, and then he got to where after that he looks very healthy.
Well, if you remember, about 7 years ago, by the way, I live in a town called Mount Kisco, New York, in Westchester County. In my town, there's a hospital called Northern Westchester Hospital. And Clinton lives in a town called Chappaqua, 5 miles away from my house. You know, when Clinton looked bad, he came to that hospital right near my house, okay, and a checkup. And if you remember, they found out then that one of his heart is pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
He had a blockage in his heart, his arteries, or whatever.
Yeah.
Then they went to New York City to look at a specialist, and they said he needs a heart operation. They gave him, I guess, 4 or 5 bypasses.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. So now, about 7 years later, he's active again. I mean, he doesn't look young anymore, but he's active. Mm-hmm. You know, moves around like a normal man. But that's what happened to Clinton. He had 4 or 5 bypasses in New York City after visited the hospital here.
Yeah.
And by the way, as far as Marilyn Monroe is concerned, folks, they actually found, according to this guy, Detective Miles Periglio, his name is, he found documents in a picture that found 2 or 3 little needle marks in Marilyn Monroe's ankle.
Oh.
Okay, from supposedly, allegedly, some kind of an injection. What it really is, nobody could tell. But when they unleashed Monica Lewinsky and Paula Jones and Clinton at the same time released information on the rock from Mars, folks, to shut him up. It's very close, okay? I guess the government said, or the CIA or the FBI, listen, guys, JFK was shot, nice guy, we can't have another guy being shot. They would look too suspicious, you know?
Yeah.
So they unleashed on him, those two wonderful ladies. We gave him a wonderful time, I guess. And the rest is history. So now his wife is Secretary of State, traveling all over the world. And Clinton is helping Obama. He's working very hard, actually. He's doing a lot of work for him. Foreign affairs and internal affairs.
Huh.
But that's it. So, Jan, that's how the world is being run right now.
Yeah, I know.
It's very strange times now. If you look at the way Obama is looking, running around like crazy, and Clinton behind his back doing things, the vice president, what's his name? I forgot his name already. Don't even see him anymore.
Biden.
Biden. You don't even see him anymore. I don't know what he's doing. But something's very, very, like I said, everyone's running around like a chicken without a head, you know?
Yeah.
And it seems like the Republicans don't even want to win the presidency.
Oh.
The show they're putting up and the way they're talking to each other on TV, they're like fences, shock therapy, no food, to this. What's going on with the Republicans? I'll tell you what it is. None of them wants to be president.
Yeah.
None of them. They don't want to win.
Right.
It's that simple.
Who would want to be the leader of this mess?
I know.
You know?
So like I said, now we have basically two presidents. One is Clinton and one, Obama working together. Do you remember what happened to Jan only a few days or a few weeks before Bin Laden was shot in Afghanistan or Pakistan, wherever he was? Do you remember what happened?
No.
They interviewed the great millionaire, Donald Trump. And he said he's going to run for president. And he's demanding to see the birth certificate of Barack Obama. You remember he screamed?
Yeah.
I want to see it. Well, let me tell you something, Georgia, right now. There was a setup, okay? In my opinion, to divert attention to what Obama was going to do to Bin Laden. It's only a few days before.
He didn't kill Bin Laden. I'm sorry, but that dog don't hunt. No way was that Bin Laden.
Well, whoever died,
they did murder some people there, but it wasn't Bin Laden.
You may be 100% right, but all I'm saying is whoever died that day, that night, in the fortress, in the room,
yeah,
that was done, at least the operation was done very accurately, and I believe that Donald Trump had very quietly something to do with it. I believe that he was giving the task of diverting attention from what was going to happen by him screaming and yelling here and discrediting Obama, demanding his birth certificate for weeks and weeks and weeks, just before it happened. That's my opinion. I may be wrong. But if you go back to the dates of what happened, the way Donald Trump spoke, and the incident a few nights later, what happened in the shooting, you'll see how close they are, Georgianne. Very close. So I got a very sneaky suspicion that Donald Trump was put up to it. And of course, right after the shooting, he said, "Well, I'm not running anymore for president."
Well, who'd want to be president of this mess? Oh my God. Oh.
I know. Well, anyway, that's what I tried to bring out tonight, Georgianne. The close correlation between JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and Clinton, deities, information. It seems that whenever you get involved in something very secretive, nobody wants to let out, some strange things happen.
Oh, yeah.
Very simple. So whether the people out there believe it or not, the data that they gave them, they can research it and they come up with the same conclusions. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. Conspiracy is how you look at facts.
Yeah.
You can look at it from the right side, from the left side, from above and beyond, and each person will come up with a different theory. But it's exactly what happened, folks. Those people were involved up to the necks in coming very close to revealing certain facts about space and aliens. So it seems. And that's how it is tonight, Georgianne.
Okay. Well, Aaron, thank you. Thank you. And you can get Aaron Kaplan's book, Deep Analysis, Frightening Conclusion, at the website by the same name, deepanalysisfrighteningconclusion.com. And thank you very much, Aaron. Very interesting.
You're welcome, Georgianne.
And God bless everybody out there that's listening. Good night.